What is going on, everybody? Eric with Chlorine King here. We're doing an interesting podcast today. I have two very special guests. I have Niki Acosta and also Hal Denbar from Skimmer. So, why don't you guys introduce yourself?
Okay. My name's Hal Denbar. Been in the pool industry for about 20 years at this point. Started Patriot Pool and Spa, just me in a truck the week I graduated from college. It was just me in a truck for 5 years and grew it to be the largest residential provider of service in Austin. And then 2020 helped start National Pool Partners, which is one of the private equity consolidators in the pool space. And so over 5 years, we grew to 10 locations across Texas, Florida, and Arizona. And then in December of 2025, Certus Pest acquired us. And so I am an unemployed pool guy for the first time in 20 years. And I joined the Skimmer team shortly after that as a board member and advisor. So it's been a ton of fun working with them on just product, go-to-market strategy, business development, and learning an entire new industry of software after 20 years as a blue-collar guy.
That's awesome. Well, Nikki, go ahead.
Yeah, I joined Skimmer 4.5 years ago. I have a background in tech, did the cloud computing thing for a long time, and got recruited to work here because of a connection that I'd worked with in the past. And I think when I joined, I was like employee 12, and now we have like 130 plus employees. So it's been a really, really amazing ride. And of course, Hal coming on is just icing on the cake.
Yeah, it's been really cool watching you guys grow. I remember when you first came on board, and now you guys have tons of people. It's just cool to show how much you guys are, integrating yourself in the pool industry and just making it better for all of us out there in the field each day. So, anyways, this topic that we're talking about today is AI and how it incorporates in the pool industry. Because I'm sure a lot of you viewers have started to incorporate AI to some degree in your business, and I know I have. And recently, Skimmer actually announced that they're incorporating some cool AI features in their software, which we'll get into. So that's what this topic's about. So, do you guys have anything you want to add before we get into some questions?
No, I mean, look, I'd like to talk about just, the technology ecosystem in general as well, but I'm sure we can get to that here shortly.
Hal, anything from you?
Now, let's jump in.
All right. Well, the first question I got for you guys is how is software evolving in the pool industry from a one-stop shop tools into more connected platforms?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that operators out there, they still want simplicity, but I think flexibility matters a lot right now. And software has come so fast and furiously into the palms of every person in the pool industry, it seems like at this point. I think there's been a shift towards more embedded solutions in the software. I think a lot of operators don't want to have to go pick 15 different tools to run their business. They kind of want an all in one solution where they can handle everything end to end: billing, scheduling, routing, tech management, customer communication. And now we've got some new offers that are coming to help pros like AI Phone.
Yeah, that to me, I think just the countless years of trade shows, sitting around with other pool guys, just complaining about, why do we have to use 20 different tools? It really comes to mind, I think, with what's going on at Skimmer right now, where we're thinking, how can we eliminate that need to have to pay 15 different vendors, track 15 different ways of doing it, not have any of them talk to each other. That's really top of mind in just the whole Skimmer, ecosystem right now. Is how do we build an ecosystem that can help the pool pro with whatever it is they need from a software technology standpoint.
Yeah, we know, for example, we have a lot of CRM capabilities inside of Skimmer, but there are large customers who already use Salesforce or HubSpot or another CRM tool or, a review platform or an ERP system. And so we want to make sure that whatever our pros are using, that we have a way to be able to sync that data seamlessly and create a really simple experience across that platform to help that customer run the best business that they can. And we see Skimmer is a system of record, right? That's where all your customer information starts. That's where all the work starts. That's where all the work is tracked. That's where you're communicating with customers. But for folks who need other tools, we want to make sure that Skimmer is extensible and that can operate alongside other tools as well.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
flexibility
I've
is
seen.
really key. Oh, sorry, Eric. Because like when
No,
I
no,
think
no. You
back
go ahead, Hal. You go
to
ahead.
when I think back to like being a one polar or having five trucks, at that stage of business, a lot of times I wanted as much in a single product as possible, right? Because I didn't have the time and bandwidth to go figure out 15 different things. But then fast forward during the MPP experience, we're running multi-location. We have hundreds of technicians. Then we need some really, really, robust tools that, may do intricate things I didn't need when I had 5, 10 trucks. But they need to be able to talk to a platform like Skimmer. And so that flexibility of, hey, if you need all in one, we'll try to get there. But if you don't want to do all in one, we also need to be able to provide that solution.
Yeah, there's a couple things, something similar but different, even with just social media posting, and this is where it's different from the Skimmer software, but it's so frustrating having to post to Instagram separately, TikTok separately, and every other website separately. So having a software like Skimmer that's starting to incorporate everything. I mean, heck, I even remember back when I talked with Ron, the original developer of Skimmer, years and years ago. I mean, the way it was then to what you guys are providing now is just it's awesome. And as you said, how the larger you get, the more data you need to make sure you're keeping your margin and all that. And that's where it's just more important to have so much features packed into software, not having to use all these different softwares and just hope they talk to each other. That's the worst thing ever. All right. Well, the next question I have for you guys is, what should operators actually look for when evaluating software platforms today? Because there's just so many out there.
Yeah, I think stability, long-term reliability, ease of use for all the users, whether they're in the back office or they're in the field, strong integrations. Again, we're going to focus really hard on making sure that that Skimmer continues to be extensible into other platforms and consume data from other platforms. Having good customer data structures is also really important, because you want to make sure that you're capturing all of the relevant information in a really clean way, so that you can take that data, analyze it, use it to make assumptions, to forecast chemicals, to track technician performance. And I think some confidence too that the platform is going to continue to evolve.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me anytime I'd look at software, is really like, what is the business interruption risk? Because the downside can be a lot more impactful to your business than any upside you find in a software solution if it goes wrong. And so for me, I was always looking, is this somebody's side project? Is this, basically, is it sustainable, right? Is it just a single person running this company that if they get hit by a truck or they go through a divorce or have some massive life change, that they lose track of the business, and therefore what I've invested in the business in terms of trusting it with all of my information, all my customers, all my people, does that go down? Whether it's temporary or permanent, it's going to put the hurt on you. And so that was actually a really big reason that I was excited to join Skimmer, because just happenstance, Mainsail Partners, the investors behind Skimmer, are actually based in Austin. I've known folks at Mainsail for a long time. I've seen their track record of when they touch something, it becomes the primary player in that space, and it's built for the long term and for success. And so seeing like the talent, the resource that has been added to Skimmer when Skimmer already had a ton after that investment, to me just like gave me ultimate confidence that what Skimmer's building is for the long term. It's going to be successful, and it's going to make life easier for everyone that's using Skimmer as a platform.
And I think operators need that, right? They need that stability.
Mm-hmm.
They need some structure. They need ease of use. One thing we've always prided ourselves on at Skimmer is making sure that Skimmer is really easy to use. It's part of our core mission to make sure that simplicity leads, and that customers can take advantage of these features, or if they want to try something new, one of our new features, that we are properly helping them get set up with those features and making the best use of those features.
Yeah, I think to go along with that, Nikki, security is a big thing, and not necessarily from data hacking or anything like that, but like how I was leading talking about was just making sure you guys are gonna be around for the long haul, because we don't want to. I remember one time we switched from one CRM to another CRM, and it was just a nightmare because we had 500 clients we had to switch over. So because the other one went out of business. So again, the security is just a huge thing that you guys are going to be around for the long haul for everybody.
Yeah, and security is a huge priority for us. I can't think of a single friend that works for a software company that hasn't had an attack surface that's been subject to some kind of, security risk. There's all kinds of really sophisticated AI hacking tools that are out there that spoof emails that look legit, that aren't legit. All it takes is for one employee in your company to click on there and give someone access to their computer, and then it's mayhem, right? So it's not
Mm-hmm.
only it's not only the security of the software, but it's also the operational security and the ongoing training that we have for our employees to make sure that we can catch and identify bad actors before it becomes a problem.
Yeah, when we're trusting, not only clearly our business's financial health to whatever it is, but also, access to our customers' properties, all of their financial information in terms of credit cards, things like that. Like security is paramount.
Couldn't agree more. So now that we're talking about data, why is data becoming such an important part of running a modern pool service business?
I for good reason. I mean, I think data gives a business owner a really objective way to evaluate the health of their business. There's you can get a gut feeling from something, but the data typically doesn't lie. If you have good data and you can trend that data and you can keep an eye on that data, you have a lot more intelligence around your business and you can make better decisions based on what the data says. So for example, one of the things that folks want to track is like, how long does it take from the time that somebody first calls me to when they can be a serviceable customer? If you know that answer and you want to shorten that cycle, then you can take action, but you have to know how long it's actually taking to begin with. Same thing, if you've got, techs that are out at pools and you want to be able to know like who's efficient, who's not, like you should be able to have access to data that should be able to tell you, where are your weak spots? What routes are costing you more time? What pools are outliers that are, extending one of your technicians' days and reducing the number of pools that you can service in a day?
And it makes your company more valuable too. And I think, because there are people out there like an NPP that, want to buy companies now, I think it's more front of mind for a lot of pool pros. Cause I know for me, as I was building my business, like I assumed I'd have to build a business that was just so big that some random person would decide this is an investable business they want to buy in, because there were no strategic buyers looking to buy pool companies purposefully. And that data, like, people ask me what matters when, or, what is someone buying when they're buying my company? And, and this is pretty universal, but especially in pools, like we're buying your people, we're buying your customers, and we're buying your data. And the more you can prove that you've got good people, good customers, and good data, the more valuable your customers or your company's going to be. When we're asking for details on a company, if we want to buy it, and you're like, I think I have this many customers, I think we use this much chemical per customer, then the buyer's like, well, I can't trust this data. Therefore, I can't assign like the top dollar I want to pay for it. That's going to get this person to sell it to me. I can't attribute that to the transaction. And so the better your data is, absolutely the more valuable your company is.
I couldn't agree more. I remember when I first started over a decade ago, I always just went out and going, if I bid this much, I'll be okay. I know I'll be making money. And I didn't actually know the real numbers. I just knew that if I bid above this much, I'll be okay. And as I grew and took on more techs and all that fun stuff, I actually had to start ironing down like, what is my break even point? What margin do I want to actually make to support everybody and create benefits for everybody? And that's where Skimmers really came in huge, is because, with the chemical costs, the labor costs and all that, I can run, or my wife does really, I can run a P&L on all my pools every month and know exactly what they're costing me, or if I'm losing money on the pools, or just whatever the case may be. So I can stay on top of price increases. I can decide if they need to go, or just whatever the case may be. The data lets me make those decisions now instead of just guessing. And that's not even talking about all this AI stuff we're about to get into, which just takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, look, the AI stuff is really cool. And you mentioned reporting. I think that's a good segue. One of the things that we are currently baiting, if that's a word, is AI insights. So we realize that like not everyone is a database wizard. I'm one of those people. And so we're giving people a way to be able to access their data in natural language. So instead of going to your data and running a report and exporting that into Excel and creating pivot tables or charts or going through the data and trying to comb through to get your answer, you'll be able to do things like ask through AI insights, which of my pools have a CY over 120? Which of my pools haven't been backwashed in more than 4 weeks? And you can get an instant list of whatever it is that you just asked. So being able to query your data and ask those natural language questions, we think will be really, really beneficial for folks who want quick answers, to do a health check on their business, to figure out what their profitability looks like, to figure out which of their pools are the least profitable or the most profitable. putting that power in the hands of our users who may not be, spreadsheet wizards, I think is going to be really, really beneficial. And I think the other part of this is AI phone, which we just launched. And AI phone is actually really, really cool. So our AI phone agent, it's $99 a month. And the setup is super easy. You go, you activate it. Right now we have a 30-day free trial. You put in your website address if you have one. It goes to your website. It completely scrapes your website and pulls in all of your business hours, your service location data, like your service area, your business hours, and basically creates some knowledge based on that. But on top of that knowledge, which you can edit or customize or change if you'd like, you can also use the custom knowledge to do things like help it troubleshoot or ask specific questions to leads versus customers. So if I have a lead that comes in, I might want to know like, hey, what area are you located in? Do you know approximately, the age of your pool? Is it screened in? Like whatever questions you want to ask, it will go ahead and just collect all that information along with all of the contact information and put that into a record automatically in Skimmer. And then it's tagged as a lead. If you have a lead that comes in, that now you can do things like send a broadcast email with a special offer out to all your leads who you haven't been able to contact or work with. So a lot of really, really cool power there. The evolution of this ultimately will be, I have a customer, their pump's not running, now I'll be able to take that information, put it inside a Skimmer. The next step will be, I'll have it automatically put a work order together that can then be actioned or assigned to a tech. So really trying to look at figuring out ways to reduce the human effort required to be able to solve a customer problem or to respond to a customer, communicate to a customer, I think is super, super powerful. And Hal, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, one, the AI insights, rewinding to that, and then on the AI agent, you said if you're not a spreadsheet wizard, like even for the spreadsheet wizards, I mean, I spent the last 5 years in private equity living in spreadsheets. I mean, that's all I did. I was in spreadsheets all the time. Having the ability to skip over that and just get the answer rather than to go digging for it, just the time saving is game changing. And so it's just so much easier for anyone, whether you're a natural spreadsheet person or not, to just cut straight to the answer. And on the AI call agent, it's pretty ridiculous. Clearly after 20 years, I know every way you could fool somebody in the office and try to throw them curveballs that they can't answer questions, can't give you the right answer to. And as we were testing this, I was throwing every curveball at it I could, and it's damn near impossible to trip up. I mean, it is really, really good, and it's not. People think AI call agent. Probably what comes to mind. I know it was for me originally because so many companies are still doing it this way. It sounds like you're talking to a robot, and this is very much not that. To the point that we had to make a strategic decision to actually say it's an AI agent. Because it sounds so lifelike that we didn't want to trick people into thinking they're talking to a real person when they're not, because you wouldn't know that it's not a real person. I mean, it is so lifelike, so friendly. It's pretty mind blowing actually. And I think what's going to be really interesting to me is how does this change the paradigm of growth in the pool industry? And what I mean by that is, after my early years when it was just me and then a few trucks and most of my time in the pool industry, we've been sort of one of the bigger companies, whether it was a bigger local company or a bigger regional company. We know we weren't the first phone call a lot of the time. We would talk to people and it's we know we're the third or fourth phone call, but we're the only one that picked up the phone. So by default, we were going to grow because we could pick up the phone when the smaller companies out there just don't have the ability to do that. Now with AI call agent, these small companies are going to be picking up every phone call. I mean, during business hours and after business hours, they're going to be capturing a lot of that growth that historically has gone to the companies that were, well resourced enough to have people in the office picking up the phone all the time. So it's going to be really interesting to see growth trajectory of different size companies in this industry and how it may change go forward from historical based on this technology.
Yeah, I'm real excited. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Niki.
I'll just add one more thing. It was interesting because, I think as this thing evolves, as we've had people using it and testing it, we have figured out that the custom knowledge that you put in there can be really, really powerful. So if you have someone that calls in and they realize they're talking to an automated voice and they're like, I don't want to do this. Let me talk to a person. You can set up a transfer rule to have them transfer that to you directly. Or if you have, someone that calls and they're like, hey, there's smoke coming out of something, you can set up a trigger to say, transfer that to me. So there's also this concept of transfer roles. If someone calls and you're a larger company and you have a billing department or a repair department, and someone calls about a repair or billing specifically, you can automatically forward that to the appropriate department too. So it's kind of like taking all of your lead information if you can't get in the phone in a smart way, but it's also serving as your receptionist to be able to route calls to the right place. And because of that, I think it's a really, really powerful tool and one that can save a lot of time. And I'll use our good friend Larry Earl from Arizona as an example. He implemented the AI phone engine, and within the first 10 minutes, he had 2 sales from calls he would have otherwise missed. He's a really small operation out of Arizona. It's just him and his kids. And he's like, half the time, my hands are wet. I can't get to the phone. He was able to get a new service customer and an acid wash because the AI phone agent picked up the phone when he would have otherwise sent it to voicemail. So he's like, man, this thing just paid for itself, which is pretty powerful, I think.
I agree. And now we're going to test my memory because as you guys have been talking, I've been trying to stockpile thoughts and comments. So let's go with this. So Hal, I completely agree with you. I've said throughout all my time in this industry, if you pick up the phone, you show up and you say you do, you're going to get business. But the problem is you get bigger, it's harder to do, right? And so, Niki, when I was working with you in the booth in the Orlando show, when you guys unveiled you were doing the AI phone and the AI insights, I was super excited because I crap you not, on at the expo, I did a podcast with my buddy about how much is your voicemail costing your business? Because, in other words, you're missing out on business if you can't answer your phone, right? Because, like Hal was saying, they just go down the line and call whoever until someone answers. And just like Hal was saying, sometimes we're not the first people they call. And a lot of times some of the reactions I get is, wow, you actually picked up the phone. I've tried 10 other companies. So when you guys unveiled that you guys were doing the AI, I immediately got excited because I just thought of all the business that we possibly, and I have a full-time office staff, but just even the thought of the business we might still be missing out on because we just can't answer the hundreds of calls that come in a day. I mean, that's going to just take the business to a whole nother level.
Yeah, and universally across home services, like that is the number one most important thing in the decision making of what company I hire. Most people think it's like price or the quality of my online reputation, but it's who picks. If you pick up the phone first, if you're the fastest to respond, that's the most important thing to customers in a lot of studies across home services.
Oh, absolutely. I could not agree with you more. I've seen that time and time again. Well, now that we talked a little bit about that, I'd like to move into AI and the technology shift. So the first question I have in this part is, AI is everywhere right now. So what are the most practical use cases that you guys are actually seeing in the pool business today with AI?
I think that the best AI is solving real operational bottlenecks for our pros, not theoretical problems. There are plenty of people out there that use, a chat GPT or something to respond to a bad customer review, which it's great at that, right? It's very good at like kind of taking the emotion out of it and writing a really objective review. But I think there's kind of this new era of AI tools where uh, clear communication is not only easier with things like AI phone, and getting date answers to your data is a lot easier with AI insights. But I think there's like real value that is provided when you can take the mental load off of like a technician in the field
Hmm.
who needs to troubleshoot something and doesn't want to go search a bunch of YouTube videos. I think like the future of AI is going to be, I have this thing in my hand with the Skimmer app on it and I'm getting an error code. What do I need to do to clear this error code or figure out what the problem is? And your phone tells you. And I think as equipment gets smarter, a lot of these manufacturers are starting to build equipment they have more sensors on them, they have APIs. Being able to extend that data out into Skimmer, where you're already managing your work, is also going to be pretty powerful too. So I think the future of AI and being able to analyze trends and create custom reporting or give you quick answers to data is going to be huge. And I think we're at the very, very beginning. What I can tell you is that we are making sure that anything that we put out that is created with AI is going to be secure, it's going to be stable, and it's going to be tested like crazy. The last thing we
Yeah,
want to do is like put something in front of somebody that's going to hallucinate or give you a bad answer.
yeah, we've been beta testers for both the AI insights and the AI phone, and it just the leaps and bounds it's taken just from when we were first introduced to it to now is just so much better. And the way that I look at it and how I'm interested to hear your thoughts, I don't see it as a replacement, but more efficient, to make you more efficient in business. It's not a replacement for what we do, but it will make you more efficient.
Yeah, it's just an accelerator and a multiplier. It's how do I get to the endpoint faster? Is it to me the primary use case right now? It's just cutting existing data sets, finding new data sets, to be smarter across the board. I mean, how many times if we've been like, maybe I should go look at my gas card statements, for the fleet or whatever it is, right? It's just like, oh, now you can just fast forward straight to answers on things that is historically, typically just got left undone from a prioritization standpoint.
And Eric, I think there's a lot of hype. There are a lot of vibe coded solutions that are coming out and a lot of
Hmm.
flashy demos. And it's interesting because I look at some of these vibe coded solutions and I'm pretty sure they're using the same templates for their websites because the logos are eerily similar and they all
Yeah, isn't that funny?
words, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't think that most operators that we've surveyed want AI everywhere, right? Like, I
Mm-mm.
think the AI should almost be invisible to the operator. And I think if it's not solving a real problem, if it's not saving time, if it's not reducing work, it's probably hype.
Yeah,
I would
and
agree.
to
Go
what
ahead.
Niki
Sorry.
said about with Skimmer from the security standpoint that doesn't work, testing to make sure that something really viable is being put out. That's like just right now in AI, like this whole the stage we're in is like what's real, what's not across the board. And what where the big hype on AI and the truth of AI about saving time. Like right now, we're living in an era where it's doing exactly the opposite because there's so many shiny objects, so many new AI toys, that I know I want to like play with all of them and see what's what. And I find myself wasting way more time than saving time right now. And so it's finding, okay, how does AI accelerate something that's sustainable and works, and is has a stable foundation? What's going to be here for the long term? Because there's going to be a lot of shiny object right now. That seems cool on paper, seems fun to play with, is fun to play with, but it's probably not going to be here in 2 weeks. And so I mean, even just looking at what like Claude's doing as an example right now, like all these products keep getting released, and then all of a sudden Claude just like makes it irrelevant. And so what's going to be here, what's not, and so finding things that have stable foundations, well resourced, thoughtful design like that, I think is key. Going back to just my original biggest, most important thing when I was looking at anything software, like business risk. If I invest time in this and money in this, is going to go away.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, when I'm doom scrolling at nighttime, it just seems like every other page scroll, there's a new AI program or something that pops up like, "Hey, we can make your life better here. We can make your life better here." But will it really? We don't
Yep.
know. So, how should pool companies think about AI versus their core software systems, like Skimmer, for instance?
Well, I think you need to have your core system, right? And core software it's still the system of record, right? All of your
Hmm.
customer data, your billing stuff, your work orders, all of that needs a foundation. And so we we believe Skimmer is that foundation, and we believe that AI should enhance workflows. So when it comes to things like being able to take that call via an AI reception, schedule the work order, assign it to a preferred tech who handles that type of work, being able to kind of set those settings up and those preferences up and then have it just automate that process end to end is going to be a huge time saver for pros. Automation has changed the way that a lot of pool companies have been able to grow, right? Like before there was software and people were on paper, like it was a very, very tricky business to be able to manage all of that on paper. And we've seen folks that have adopted and taken use of all the features that we've offered, and it's literally changed their lives in terms of being able to communicate with their customers, let their customers know what's going on, keep their techs accountable to the job that they say they're supposed to be doing, right? That's a big one.
Hmm.
So I think obviously having that core system of record is important, but also using kind of AI to be able to accelerate the automation of tasks where you're frankly wasting a lot of time. And that's why we did AI phone when we surveyed folks. we realize there's a lot of people in this industry have a problem picking up the phone. It's hard, especially if you're a smaller operation, right? And even when you're a bigger one, if you have a storm, for example, like we have had in Texas, like they had in Nashville last year, we talked to some of these pros and like their phone's literally ringing off the hook. Like every customer has leaking stuff everywhere, flooded yards. Like, it's very difficult to make sure that your customers feel heard and serviced at that time when they're in a panic. But with some of these technologies, it's going to make that a lot easier.
Yeah, and actually one huge benefit to Skimmer is, that broadcast email you guys have. So, we deal with hurricanes pretty much every year. And so, going back to Helene and Milton a couple years back, it was a core way for us to communicate with our clients, to let them know what we're doing, as, because we had 200 or 300 properties destroyed on the barrier islands from the hurricanes. And it was just so simple to send an email to the Skimmer broadcast. And then even now today, when something's coming up like pollen season, we'll do a broadcast email. And I'll give a link to my YouTube video talking about pollen and what to expect and what to do. So we're allowed to communicate better, much easier to all of our client base versus sending 700 separate emails like we used to have to do. So
And being proactive about those things. I know a lot of pros in hurricane areas that have a email ready to go. Like, here are your hurricane tips. If we get hit with this before this hurricane hits, here's all the things that you should do. Put your umbrellas away, right? Like, make sure, like, in some cases your breakers are off, like just in case your equipment gets flooded. There's some really cool things that you can do to help your customers, especially if you know something like a hurricane is coming.
and do not put lawn furniture in the pool. It's the worst thing you can do. We are not fishing it out, I swear.
I've seen that before.
Yeah, oh, it's crazy. All right, so another question I have for you guys is, what separates the operators who are scaling successfully from the ones that are struggling? Is AI helping with that?
That's a really, really good question. And, AI obviously is an enhancer here at Skimmer. But what I've seen from the companies that are scaling successfully, there's some traits that they all have in common. And probably at the top of that is they have great people and they have strong systems and processes. If you have those things in place, I think anytime that you're scaling, the first thing that's going to break is going to be a process somewhere, and it's because the process is weak. And if you think about, like, any franchise in the United States, be it like, a fast food chain or something else, they have really, really good processes in place. They have a lot of like single button operations. They have a lot of charts on the wall that tell you exactly what you're supposed to do. Kyle at Nevergreen was really proud. He sent me his poster for how your truck should be stocked. It At his company, if you are driving around a truck, this is what your truck needs to look like, just to make sure it's consistent, just to make sure that when they're doing inventory that it's easier to count. Like, those kinds of little tweaks in a business can make a really, really big difference. I think responsiveness to customers is also what separates, the great from the decent. If you are communicating well, if you are communicating in a timely fashion, that goes a long way. This is still a service industry, right? And it's one that's pretty intimate. You're in someone's backyard. So being responsive and being able to communicate well and be proactive, like you were mentioning with your hurricane stuff, like that goes a long way. And then the ability to measure your performance. So, if you can track all your data and get insight into your business, and you can have visibility into what's happening by taking the emotion out of it and looking at the data, then you can make decisions about your business or figure out what you need to focus on next. There are always, kind of key metrics that any company that is sizable is going to look at. And it goes beyond, just profit margins. They're looking at things like route density, tech performance, time spent at pools, time it takes to do a repair, time that it takes to drive to a repair, right? Like, all of those are factors because your time is limited when you're running a company, and all your text time is limited as well. And then I think just being less reactive when it comes to decision making too. I think, and I manage social media for Skimmer, so I've had to get good at this, not being reactive. But it's easy to read one comment and think that the sky is falling, or get one bad review and think that the sky is falling. I think the larger customers and the ones that are growing quickly, they aren't reactive to those types of things. They kind of have learned to just, like, take the high road and find customers that are a better fit.
Can't make everyone happy.
That's true.
Yeah.
Al, you have anything to add to that?
I mean, you pretty much nailed that list. I think what I'll double tap on, one thing that I always found to be really successful and was just a obsession for me and any team I was a part of was the communication piece. We had a core value through both companies of communicate quickly and clearly. And really it was spawned out of when I started in the industry. My first year, I knew nothing about swimming pools, but I knew I could out customer service whoever I was up against. And we used to call ourselves a customer service company that happened to clean swimming pools, and it was all about like we are going to be first, we're going to be friendliest, and we just know this part of the game is not going to be a competition. We can be competitive on who's the best pool guy technically, but nobody's going to compete in terms of communication. And it worked. It clearly resonates with customers. Goes to that response time now, like with an AI call agent. A lot of that sort of almost the tables are, or the scales are evened competitively in terms of if you have technology helping assist you with that clear and quick communication. But then I think the intangible piece. I mean, Niki nailed I think every tangible like quantitative piece of what it takes to be successful. The other one though is pain tolerance. If you're going to scale in this business, you got to be able to take some pain, and put your head down and go through the tough times. Sort of maybe the valleys of death of growth of a business, and it means like keeping just intense focus on what the other side of that valley looks like. And it's different in different markets around the country, but I can vividly remember in Texas, I think it was probably from maybe 3 trucks to probably 10 plus trucks. It's not like I was making any more money, and I was definitely 7 times busier and losing my mind.
Lord, isn't that the truth?
And I can still remember the day that all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait! All of a sudden I'm making a little more money, and can do more cool things with my family, with the team at Patriot. And it's deciding, basically gut checking yourself, like, are you willing to push through to that other side of it? Because there's nothing worse than just getting stuck in that purgatory of working 10 times harder and not seeing any more reward for it. And so it's just having that pain tolerance to be like, you know what, I'm pushing through.
And you push
Yeah.
through a lot, Hal. You and I both know a lot of mutuals that used to work at Patriot Pools, and it grew very, very quickly. And the one thing that I heard from a lot of these folks who have now gone on, a lot of them to start their own companies and they're using Skimmer, which is kind of cool, is that you built a really great team there, and you invested in your team. And I think labor and turnover continue to be a huge, huge problem here. But we have folks like Ryan Marcinek of Happy Pools, and we're probably going to do a webinar on this at some point. He does profit sharing bonuses for his techs. Like, they have equity in the company. Like, that's so cool to be a part of a team where you actually have an ownership stake. And that's not very common in this industry, but we're starting to see, as people are trying to attract better talent and keep better talent and prevent turnover, that folks are getting smarter about how they hire and manage and the benefits that they provide. And I think that's going to make this industry more professional as a whole.
I agree, because I mean, a lot of the problem stems from these people that are charging next to nothing for service. So, you know, again, tying back to the Skimmer software, being able to analyze everything and really create a good solid margin to give back to your team will allow more companies to do things like that. I think that's awesome. And getting back to what Hal was saying about the communication part, I remember when I first started, if I had to respond to an email, for instance, from a client, I would write this long, lengthy thing. And I remember one time on Ball and Chain, she looked at me and she goes, I got 3 words for you. And anyone listening or watching this, these 3 words change a lot of how I respond and operate. And like you guys are saying, let things go. Clear, concise, convincing. If you follow those 3 words when you're responding to somebody or talking with somebody, you're not going to be wasting time just putting fluff into a conversation or an email that is completely irrelevant, no one cares about. As long as you're clear, concise, convincing, you're going to save time and be more efficient with that stuff, kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
I love that.
So anyways, yeah, I'll let her know you guys love that. So anyways, why do you believe operations and not demand is often the biggest constraint for pool companies nowadays?
I think the demand is out there, and I think most markets still have strong demand from what I can see. I think, like I mentioned earlier, like growth is going to break weak systems. It's when you're growing that you realize that there's a gap somewhere that needs to be fixed so that that thing doesn't happen again or that thing doesn't become a time suck. I think that when it comes to operations, like, your missed calls, your poor routing, your billing issues, all those things will slow companies down. And I saw it the other day. Someone posted and they were like, "Hey, why doesn't Skimmer have a print all button for invoices?" And I didn't even need to respond because like everyone who left a comment was like, "Dude, why are you printing invoices? Like nobody's doing that. It doesn't matter if your customers are, elderly folks who are snowbirds. Like nobody's printing invoices anymore." So I think that just goes to show like there is a shift, and there's been a rapid shift in pool service where you've got these great tools that can help you save real time. I mean, I remember, one of the customers that I talked to, he was chasing down payments for months sometimes. And then he just put everyone on auto pay. And now he's like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize how much time I was wasting just chasing payments down." But
And
that's
the stress too with that.
stress, so much stress. Yeah, or taking checks and having checks bounce and having to reconcile checks with the work that you've done. Like, that's yeah, you have to pay a credit card fee, but like how much is your time worth? Like whatever you paid for that credit card fee, like it's okay because you more than made up for it in the time that you've saved and in the headaches that you prevented.
Yeah, and operationally, I feel like all of us that chose this industry. I mean, we chose pain. We this is not an easy industry, and that became really clear to me in a way I had no understanding of. Over the last several years, I brought in at this point many employees, many leaders, many executives from other home service fields, and I've come to learn that full service is the hardest. And everybody wants to say like, "Oh, what I'm doing so hard," but like legitimately, I was able to gain insights from other industries that we are the most operationally intense home service there is. There's no other home service that turns over their entire customer base every single week. That each visit has material impact on the next one. That there's a proxy for success or failure associated with every sense you have. Like my skin burns, it looks funny. What's that smell? What's that sound over by the equipment? So the level of like critical analysis by our customers is higher than any other home service. And we all probably found ourselves here because we're rebels or outcasts. Like nobody grows up wanting to be in the pool industry. You find yourself here, and then you stick or you don't. And so we're dealing with the inherent challenge of attracting people to an industry that people aren't naturally drawn to. And so we did it to ourselves. We picked the hardest industry there is, pretty much, from a service perspective. And so finding tools like Skimmer to make that ease that pain, in my mind, is just like absolutely imperative.
Well, I didn't choose the game chose me, so there's always that. But to go along with what you're saying, Hal, also too, all the metaphorical hats we have to wear, operating a pool business. I mean, we're, a therapist, we're a plumber, we're an electrician, we're a chemist. There's so many things that we do each day that it's if you don't have the SOPs in place, like Niki was saying, I mean, you're just not going to scale. I mean, you will fail.
And if
So
you don't feel, that's okay,
go ahead.
right? Like we have plenty of single polars. I talked to one in Arizona that's making $500,000 serving
Yeah, that's
super
killer.
great pools. Like, it goes back to like what kind of business do you want to build? Like for some people they may not want that headache, and for those folks, like, guess what? Skimmer's great for you too. Skimmer will save you time regardless of size.
Well, actually, I'm really interested to hear your answer to this question, Hal. How are technology and private equity, since you worked in private equity, changing expectations around how pool companies are run nowadays?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting one. I do think that the pool service consumer is becoming a smarter consumer at this point. I think historically, again, sitting at trade shows, having a beer, complaining about the industry like we all do, it's always the race to the bottom piece, right? That it's this former employee starts a one pool shop, charges half the price of what the market really dictates. Brings prices down, brings customer expectation down. I think with consolidation, we're actually starting to see things go the other way, where you've got these larger players coming in, they're charging a premium price, top of market, None of these big guys are coming in and being the cheapest guy in the market, because they can't sustain that to support all the corporate overhead they have to bring in to run these larger operations. So they're coming in, they're charging higher prices. They're putting systems in place. They're bringing technology. They're bringing education that not only clearly is impacting the employees, but that is starting to show through to customers in a real way too. So customers are starting to realize, like, oh, I can have this really clean cut, uniform technician that I'm used to in all these other industries that historically was a rarity in the pool service industry. That at this point, everybody else, we have to raise our game to compete with that. And the good news from it is, there's higher prices are coming into the market with these big players. And if people are paying attention, they can use that as air cover and be able to raise their own prices. But they need to raise the expectations of what it is they're delivering, so that it's apples to apples, that you're competing with these big guys that are trying to bring this sort of higher level of service, because of the expectations they have.
And there's a safety aspect too, right, Hal? Like,
oh, that's huge. Yeah, that to me is something that really my eyes opened, operating at larger scale. Because I know I was really guilty of it as a small business owner. I think it's a pretty common thing. Like, when you're an entrepreneur just trying to get to the next day, like, you hope for safety, you don't plan for it. And that's clearly not a good way to do it. I think a lot of people are just too busy to see it. And so, operating at scale, like, it has to be paramount, right? Because you're a target to every car on the road, every homeowner. As a big company, you are seen as sort of a target. There's deep pockets if something goes wrong. And so, it forced a behavior that should have already been there, and an awareness that should have already been there. But I think that's an evolution also that this consolidation trend is really going to bring to the industry. That's going to be this really positive outcome of employers really doubling down on their focus on safety. Whether it's driving safety or just, chemical handling, chemical spill in the warehouse or the parking lot. How do you handle that? These things that I think have just flown under the radar that shouldn't. But we've got to bring to the forefront, and operate, as the big boy industry we all want to be.
And safety has to be top of mind as well, because of the risk profile for insurers too, right?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, that's our industry has been on the insurance radar. And there's some states, like, I know Florida's one, that it's becoming really hard to find carriers that are willing to insure pool trucks, because we're basically driving around bombs, with all the chemicals we have in the back, and we've created a reputation, deservedly so, that we're not the safest industry out there. And so we've got to really focus on improving this, because otherwise our cost of insurance, and or even just availability of insurance in future is going to really start to become an issue.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I don't know what I would do if I got another. I mean, we're on a higher tiered insurance policy, and it's 5 figures a month just to be on the road, not even gas, just literally to be insured. It's just insane. Well, now that we talked about private equity, here's something that sort of rolls into the same category. So as more companies get bought and sold in the pool industry, probably by private equity firms, what makes a business more operationally attractive today?
Yeah, I mean, I've touched on it a little bit already. I mean, when you think about, again, what somebody's buying, they're buying your people, your customers, and your data. And if you're operating at a really large size, process for sure becomes highly, highly valuable. But we know a lot of the industry doesn't operate at that size, right? And so, if you've got 2 trucks and the greatest process in the world, whoever's going to buy you is probably going to put their processes in anyway, right? So it's more, do you have good people? Do you have customers that you're charging a good price, and and they want to make repairs and do things that need to happen on the pool, when they need to happen? And is your data good, right? Like, can that buyer trust that what you're telling them is true and accurate? Because I can tell you, a lot of buyers aren't just going to trust you; they need to see it, and so you need to be able to back it up. But apart from that, it's just you're going to be operating a better business if that's top of mind and what you're looking at on a regular basis.
Gotcha. Niki, you have anything?
No, I think he hit the nail on the head there.
Perfect. So have you guys seen examples anywhere where technology or operational systems, SOPs, made a company significantly more valuable or easier to operate?
Oh yeah, we see it every day. the customers that have grown very, very quickly at Skimmer have become targets for private equity, and private equity loves them because yeah, you're raising your hand because you are
Mm.
I
Every
work.
day, 4 or 5 emails come in.
Yeah, like if you've been able to grow to the scale that you have, Eric, if you have a few hundred pools, like you're a great target. And the reason why you're a great target is because you've obviously figured something out to be able to get to that scale, right? So having great data, clean data, making sure that your customers are serviced well, making sure that you're not the product. And I'm saying that to pool owners in general. I think private equity has tended to look at some of these potential acquisition targets, and if you're the guy with the cell phone and they only want to deal with you, you're not a very good target, right? And so being able to structure your business in a way that kind of allows you to be able to spread those responsibilities out via a team or software or through processes, like that's not a bad move.
I agree because actually, in the beginning, they were buying me. I was the face of the company. And when I started hiring employees, and how you probably experienced the same thing, clients got pissed when you stopped servicing the pool and someone else was. And, nowadays I'm the repair technician. I do all the repairs. But when I go up and introduce myself, I don't say I'm Eric, the owner of Chlorine King. I say, hey, I'm Eric. I'm the repair guy. I'm here to do this or that. Oh, we need to contact the office. Like, I try to give every reason to explain that I'm not the owner because I just don't want to deal with that. And then also on top of that, like you're saying, you know, I don't want the value of my business to be me. I want it to be on the value, the merits of the business, to make it more sellable in the future.
That is a super smart way to handle it. Yeah, that's that I yeah, probably similar stage of business made that same very like decided decision where it's like I wanted Patriot to be front center of everything. I didn't want it to be
Mhm.
house pool service. And I'd even get pissed when I'd see reviews that they mentioned my name, right? Because it's like,
Same.
hey, no,
Yeah.
just name Patriot. Don't. I'm not a part of this.
It's funny you say that too, because when AI, like I think off camera, Nikki, we're talking about that, what AI I use for like social media and everything. When it says something like call Eric and the team at Chlorine King, I'm like, all right, let's delete Eric and just say Chlorine King. So just trying to get my name off the face of the business anyways. So what are some things owners can do now that will make their business easier to scale, transition, eventually sell? I know we've talked a little bit about it, but any
Yeah.
other ideas towards that?
Get Skimmer.
Obvious answer.
If you're not using technology right now, regardless of how big you are, how small you are, if you're not leveraging technology, good technology, then you're already behind. Like, you know, the customer communication tools in and of itself, the tech accountability, forcing a tech to take a picture while they're at the pool is still one of the favorite features ever of Skimmer. Because as a business owner, you don't want someone to go out and game the system and said that they serviced the pool when really they were out with their buddies having beers, right? Like, and it happens. So the decision we made to force someone to take a picture live in the field and not be able to upload from the photo roll has been a little bit unpopular with a few people. But I think when you explain why, we've had pool owners call Skimmer and say, my pool guy said that he took this picture, but I think he just uploaded it. And we can tell them confidently, like, there's actually no way to do that. They were in your yard. If you have the picture, they were in your yard. And so
That is,
there's some
sorry.
yeah, there's some comfort that you can have in knowing that like your technology is actually forcing the right behavior and allowing you to provide better service to your pool owners.
Yeah, I actually, that's one of the best decisions you guys could have made. I have a friend of mine who uses a different software, and I keep pushing him to come over to Skimmer for this very reason. He had a technician about a year or so ago that took the same picture and uploaded it 3 different weeks in a row saying to service the pool, but they never went. And so I keep telling him, like, you can't do that with Skimmer. You can't fake pictures. Like, you have to take it on site. And hopefully he'll transition over. But I mean, I think that's a huge thing. And then back to the technology, guys, anyone listening and whatnot, I swear, hand on the Bible, I went out to an estimate like a month or two ago, and the customer goes, yeah, they leave these paper things in the timer. And I said, what? Like chemical readings? And I said, wow, people still do that? And she goes, what do you mean? And then I explained how we're different. And with Skimmer, they get a digital report because they're seasonal too. And so they saw an instant benefit to that because they're still getting reports to their inbox weekly, whether they're here or in Canada, you know? So that was a huge sales point right there. And back when I first started using Skimmer, that was a huge sales point on my estimate or my presentations, as I call them, is that we were able to do it digitally and not have to use paper. And we gained a lot of business simply for that simple feature.
Yeah, look, having a customer portal, having, modern billing infrastructure, even, all of those are things that you can use to provide value to your homeowners if you just talk about them, right? Like, email reports, you know, consumer financing. People can finance now through Skimmer, they can finance repairs. So there's a lot of really cool things that we offer that definitely, as a pool service company, I would be mentioning because I think it would make my company seem worth the cost of whatever it is to service that pool.
Yeah, I always say if you bring value, customers will pay. And, having all that at their fingertips with Skimmer just makes a massive difference in your conversion rates, but also the value you can charge. Well, guys, that's really all I had for you today as far as the questions go. I really appreciate you guys being on the show. And if you guys want to add anything, feel free. But thanks so much for being on.
Thanks for having us, Eric.
Yeah, Eric, thanks so much, man.
You're welcome, guys. Have a great day. And thanks again.